Hello, welcome to this video on monitoring network logs using WebdriverIO. Here we will be taking a look at how we can use this WebdriverIO tool to monitor the network logs and capture it and verify it if it is coming up as expected or not. So if you are new here, consider subscribing, and if you like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up as well as share it with your friends. Okay, let's begin with the automation scripts. First thing that you need to is to create a base where you can kind of work on. So I'll put npm init-y, and I also need the WebdriverIO CLI and I need some automation scripts as well as a base where I can build upon. This will save some time for us, so that's the reason why we choose this. So once this is installed, then I will explain how we can capture the network logs. The base for capturing the network log is built upon the Puppeteer library. Even though we have not installed the Puppeteer library, you can see in a few minutes, once the installation is complete inside the node modules, I will show where the Puppeteer library is being installed. So once WDIO CLI is being installed, you can scroll down all the way to the bottom where we have WebdriverIO. So basically you have WebdriverIO library, and if you go to the package.json, WebdriverIO by default installs Puppeteer core, and which is kind of the base for us to build on top of to get the network logs. I will go ahead and change this so that it's a little easier for me to execute. Okay, so that is it. So now if I put npm test, we have the automation scripts up and running, but this doesn't have anything to do with network logs capture yet, but I'm just ensuring that we have some script where it is successfully running. Okay, so now the WebdriverIO setup is done. The next part is to capture the network calls. To capture the network logs, let's first create the scripts. We don't need a page object related things, so let's remove that. And also let's rename it. Let's beat example. No. Also let's rename it to capture logs. Capture logs.js. So if we don't need these two, and let's describe it as, let's say, capture network logs. So here let's first do by capturing all the get calls. So let's put in capture all get calls. So here this is not required, so we'll have to start from scratch. Perfect. So the first thing that you need to do is to create an object where you can store all the values from the logs. So basically we can create a folder or a variable called output, and inside that particular variable, what we can do is like put in a browser.mock. So browser.mock is a function that kind of calls up or utilizes the Puppeteer library to capture all the details that we need. So here we are going to describe anything that we want to specifically capture. We want to capture everything, so just put in a star by star, and inside this we need to define what all the values that you want to capture. So here basically we would just want to capture any method that is having the type as get. So that's all we are trying to do. And once this is done, so we want to have the browser pointing out which URL to be used. So here we'll just use https rec res.in. So this is one site that we wanted to use. So first let's verify if the values are coming up or not. So console.log, and here what we can do is the value that we have stored is output, and inside output there is a variable called calls. Inside output there is a field called calls that kind of captures all the values that we have set. So now when we run npm test, we should see some logs in the console. As you can see, you have quite a few logs, but you're not able to make sense of what is what, right? So now what we can do, let's place it in a better way. So we'll create a variable called fs, and that will utilize the inbuilt fs library. And what it does it gives us the option of storing all the values inside a file, right? So how we can do is that fs.write file, and inside the write file what we have to do is to create the name first. Let's put in get calls, and that's a JSON file. So inside the JSON file we need to give what values to be provided. So you given this output.calls. So this is what we want to write, and this is basically a callback. So we'll have to put in a function, and if you have any errors, just print that out. So we'll just do that by typing in this. So if you have error, then throw error. Okay, so this will do nicely for us. So once we have created this, so basically what we expect is to see a JSON file that is being created there. Okay, let's wait for the JSON file to be created. Once the JSON file is created, then we'll be able to see how it is. Yeah, you see the JSON file. Oh, everything is coming up as an object. So that we can fix by doing JSON.stringify. So this is an inbuilt function that is present in JavaScript by default. So this will be able to give you what we want to see in a JSON format instead of the console. Now let's see the JSON file. Okay, so this is a bit clumsy still. This is still not making sense. So what we'll do, we'll put it inside each file. So let's do that by saying object.keys method, and inside the keys method what we'll do is we'll have to put in this object.calls, output.call, sorry. There we'll just loop in for each, and inside the for each we'll just put in a function, and that function should have key as the value for each. So here once we have all this, let's put this there. So we want to create a multiple files for each calls. So, and the calls can't be the same name, so I want to put it as unique. So let's put key as the unique name, and inside this I don't want to log all the calls file. I just want to log only that specific file. So basically what we have trying to do is that as you can see here, there are multiple calls that are being made. So URL is for the first call, and basically wherever this particular file is being ended, I just can't seem to make some sense out of it. So this will be all present inside a separate file. So let's see how it goes. So we expect quite a few calls to be shown up, and each of the call will have the details inside that called out separately. Yep. So you can see that there were 17 different get calls that was captured inside this particular output object. And if I go to the first one and then type in format document, then you can see that it was a get call with this particular URL, and the headers was this, and this was the response that we received, and inside the response the body was this. So this is what we have retrieved. And if you go to, let's say, a 10 and then right click and put on format, then you will be able to see all the logs that we have received. So that way you see all the values are being present here. So let's do one more thing. I just want to filter out even more. So here, instead of console log all this, I just want to put in console.log and then just display the URLs alone. So every key for this should have a URL. So I'll just put URL. So that way what we'll do, we'll be able to see all the URLs by which the get call was hit. That will give a sense of what we have kept inside this particular file. Right. So now we can see these are all the list of URLs for which the get call was made. The parameters are not being printed, but just that we have an idea of how the calls were being made. Now let's take a look at how we can capture all the post calls. So to do that, you just have to change the method name. That's all you'll have to do. So I want to capture all the calls that is with the method name post, right? So if we do that, I think the keys will have to be deleted, because the key name will be 0 1 again, so we won't be able to know whether it's overwriting or not. So let's move it to trash, and then let's go all the way down and run npm test. So once we do that, then we should see all the calls related to post coming up as a JSON file. There we go. So you have two calls. So let's format it out. So there is one with this particular post method, and there is another one. Both are Google Analytics related. So looks like request REQ collects quite a few. So yeah, so this is how we capture the post calls. All right. We have seen how we can capture the get and post calls in bulk. So let's say if I have to verify only one specific call, let's see how we can do that. So I'll create another copy. So here what I'll do is capture a specific call, right? What specific call are we talking about? So here what we can do, we'll get away from this URL. Let's use something called this. So what I'll do is that we have the Internet Heroku application. Here I'll give some random user ID and random password. And if I go to network, what we'll see is that there'll be a service call made called authenticate. So let's say I'm interested more in this particular call. So here what I see is that the URL ends with the word authenticate, and here whatever the username and password that I have sent has been sent in the request parameters. So let's take this as an example and see how we can automate it using WebdriverIO. So all we have to do is the same thing. So here, as you can see, the method that we are going to capture is a post method, or yeah, it is a post method. So we can have this as such, but instead of star star, so we just have to be more particular in that. So here, whatever be the value that you see there has to be captured. So let's copy authenticate and put in there. And the URL that we're going to use should be this, right? So as soon as you enter this URL, you won't be able to capture this particular call. That's because you will not have the call made. For you to make the service call, you'll have to understand how we can tap on the click button or the inspect button. So to do that, let's copy these elements. So let's copy in the XPath so that it's a bit quicker. So we just have to put in $, and then let's put in the XPath of that particular element, and then I will set value of that element to some junk, let's say some junk, and then I also need the XPath of this element. So there it is. So just copy it, XPath of that. So dollar, yeah, dot set value, and I just want that to be some random digits. So as soon as these two are entered, still I need to click on login. So I need that element as well. So I don't want to click on the inspect, I just want to click on the button. So let's copy the XPath. So dollar, and then the XPath of that element dot click. So this will do nicely for us. So what we have done, I don't want to use the same variable here. I need to put it into something different. So I've created a variable which holds the output of this particular API call, right? So here what we'll do, here in the output call has only one element in there. So let's see if this works, and I don't want to name it as key.json. Let's put in like a specific authenticate.json, right? So let's see how it goes. npm test. So I have changed the names, so it should be what you have there. You just can't use the copy paste the same value that you have there. Perfect. So now we have another call called authenticate that has been captured, and that is specific to what we have entered. The value that we have entered is will be present in some of this parameters. Here you go. So whatever be the value that we have entered is being captured in under this particular element. So this is how you capture a specific post call. If you want to capture anything else in particular, for example, if you want to capture login in particular, so if you want to capture this particular call again, so all you have to do is simple, so you just have to go to capture logs, then change this word to login and change the method to get, and then name this as login. So here, if you run this particular script again, it will capture that particular log. It doesn't capture the post call, right? So you can see that it is capturing only the get method for that particular element. So this way you can capture a specific call that you wanted to, instead of capturing the whole of calls that we need. Now let's take a look at how we can verify the request data. So let's comment it out and then probably copy it as another scenario. So here you go. So here what we'll do is that we wanted to verify a specific request data. Verify request data. So for that, I think we will go to authenticate again. Authenticate. So why we have to go to authenticate is that in authenticate by default, what we do is we send the username and password. What I'll do right now is to enter some value, and I'll verify if this value is being passed by this request or something different. There is a chance that the developer can do it incorrectly. So if you wanted to verify such things, that's when this will be helpful. So here I have captured in output 1 the authenticate call. It is being done. So I don't want to log it everything here. So I need a basic assertion. So let's say for assertion to be happening, I need to call that first. So variable is equal to assert is equal to require of assert. Assert is there by default, and once you have done that, so assert dot strict equals, and here what we have to do is output 1 has all the values, so we'll just put in output 1, but that doesn't have anything directly, so it should be inside calls. So here there is a small thing that you'll have to understand. Even though there is only one call, we can't just directly put in like this and then go to the data, post data, and then verify it. So it is present inside the first array element. So you'll have to put in call of 0 and then put in post data. And since this is the value that we have entered from the user, so this is something we have to copy it again and then enter it. So now whatever you enter here has been structured in this particular format. Let's say if I run the script now, it will be executing. Yeah. So let's wait for the scripts to complete. Yeah. So now everything has passed. Now what happens is that if I go ahead and put in something different. So for the first script, I redo that all over again. I'm gonna enter some numbers. So and if suppose I have to verify the same thing for the second call, all I have to do is put in this. So now what happens for the second call, this will fail. The reason is that for the second time we are entering a different username, whereas the value that you're comparing here is something different. So here you can see that the second time the number is being entered and there is 0 passed and 1 failed. So that's because the assertion for the first one has passed and the second one has failed, and you can see the exact values being called out here. So this way you will be able to capture all the calls that you have made. So if you see, I have made 2 different calls with the same authenticate method, and both the calls are being captured inside this particular variable, and I was able to verify one call at a time, with the specific values that we wanted to. So this is how you capture the request data. If you wanted to go ahead and verify something else, for example, if you wanted to verify the post data entries, or if you wanted to check if the status code is 303 or something else, so anything, right? I mean, so anything in this particular thing can be verified with this approach. Now let's take a look at how we can verify the response data. To explain that, I've captured the element that I wanted to. So basically it's a user single element with the data ID. So if you go up and then if you tap on inspect, you could see the element has a data ID user single. So with that, I have scrolled into view and clicked on it, and once that's done, all I'm trying to do is I need to verify if suppose the values are coming up as expected or not. So here in the response you could see that it's all present under data. Yeah, under data you have email, and that's what we have to verify. So that itself is present under something else. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So output 1 has all the values, and it's a get method. That's all good. So first call, I want to remove this first, and here it's not post data, it has to come under data dot email. So it has to be data dot email. So here you go. So what we'll do now, I want this particular email to be captured. So let's close this, and here you go. This is the email that you have. Let's capture that and verify if this is working as expected or not. Also, just to be sure, let's store that inside the file as well, so that we can kind of cross check if some error comes up. It's a good practice to store that. KU, and here it's output 1, it's all good. Stringify, it's not login, we want to make it as get user.json. Perfect. Let's put an npm test. Let's wait for the script to complete. So we are in request rest.in. Now it has to scroll into that particular element, and then it has clicked. Okay, cannot read a property email of undefined. So let's see what the structure that we have here. So okay, so what we have directly is body.data.email. It's not directly as data.email, it has to come under body.data.email. So that's the mistake. So what we can do is to verify body.data.email. Let's run it again. Yep, let's wait for this to complete. Perfect. Now it has executed. So even though what we saw as data.email right away on the network logs, but Puppeteer was capturing it in a different format. It was present inside the body element. So I think it's always a good way to cross-check by storing it in some file, and then you verify it so that it becomes a little easier for you to test. So this is it. So we have seen how we can capture WebdriverIO get call, post call in bulk. Also, we have verified how we can capture the specific REST API. We have seen how we can validate a specific request data or a response data. So having gone through all of this, I have a few observations. With respect to capturing get call and post call, it doesn't seem to work as expected. That's because if you see in this page, if you go ahead and verify the number of get calls that one has, that seems to be highly mismatching. Why I say that is, I'll show you right now. So in this URL, let's say if I go to network, and then if I refresh it again, you can see that the number of calls that is being made is a vast value. So this is because the URL has already loaded. Probably it's just keep on loading, though the browser shows that everything is being completed. The number of requests that is being made is close to 200. And now if I, in the filter criteria, if I go ahead and filter by method as get, so you can see that the element or the number of yeah, so the number of get calls that we have is 174, but whereas in WebdriverIO we just got it as 17 max when we ran this particular script. So this is something I'm not 100% sure of yet. So I'm not sure if anyone would want to test it that way. If that is the case, I think I suggest take it up with the Gitter channel, where they help us figure out what is the problem. I tried reaching out, but there seems to be some sort of misunderstanding from my side. Anyways, this is not a completely rolled out version yet. This is still in a beta state. If you see the documentation on the official WebdriverIO site, you can see that. So as soon as it gets fixed, probably you will find out another video from me on this one. So this is about capturing network logs and verifying the data in the logs. Hope you have liked this video. Please add a comment if you have any queries. Also feel free to smash that like button. Thank you.